Why are people attracted to the right or left? Because we're supposed to cooperate. We're supposed to share the abundance on this planet. Why are we attracted to the far right? Because government is a tool, a weapon system that's being used to control us. Remember Sal Alinsky, three-legged stool analogy. Got the governments, the big corporations, and the people. And if the people don't get organized, the other two will, and they'll control us. A lot of people know that government's a problem. That's why it is so attractive for people to be on the right side of this political spectrum. But very few people on this spectrum really understand what created it, and that anarchy and collectivism are both the answers from the right and from the left, but it's on our to-get list. It's what we get when we stop cooking our food. It's on our to-get list. Things we think, things we do, things we get. We don't have knowledge of how to live, so instead we make mistakes, we have problems. Everybody's saying, look, we should be up there, cooperating. How do we get there? Come back here in the second stage, tell people to cooperate, it doesn't work. Gotta come back to the second stage of knowledge, say, you gotta learn how to live. Oh, gotta come back up here, find the knowledge I need, apply that knowledge, and when we apply the knowledge of how to live, and we all do that, then we have collectivism, then we have anarchy. We won't have a government that's controlling us. We won't have sick people trying to profit off of us. And remember, those who live by profit do not have the same interests as those of the common people. It's harming us. So there's a lot to be said about why people would criticize capitalism, the thing about money. And to make more sense out of this, you got to understand there are 7 stages of money, which are really 2 stages. One is before the fall of mankind, we had a gift mentality. After the fall of mankind, we had an exchange mentality. Money went through 6 cycles. I've gone over this before. I'll put a link down below explaining these stages of money. Money shouldn't exist. It's a subsequent need also. Government shouldn't exist. It's a subsequent need also. And the only way to eventually get rid of those is for us to change our mentality. So we'll revert back to a gift mentality. So what kind of government do we need to do? How do we get from where we are to where we need to be? That's a tough question, isn't it? If we can reach the tipping point, critical mass, and things start changing exponentially, how is the government system going to change? How are we going to go? Are we going to go immediately to the left? Are we going to go more to the right and then all the way to the left? How is that going to go? I don't know. It's interesting to think about. And I've mentioned before that once we reach the tipping point, it's hard to really speculate what happens after that, because it's going to be amazing what happens to this planet when we wake up and we all have the same mentality and we all have a common interest, and we're no longer competing for resources on this abundant planet. We're cooperating and sharing the abundance this planet has to offer. We understand the concept of the more we give, the more we receive. But until that day, what do? How do we work toward our resource-based economy? Is that part of the plans to get there? We don't want to do away with private property or private ownership. But when we look at properties that are socially used, they should not be privately owned. And there are a lot of properties that qualify under that umbrella, isn't there? So I've given you guys a lot to think about, and there's a lot for you guys to research on this subject. When you look at this with an open mind and you look at both versions, you'll realize one version is riddled with deception and the other makes so much sense because it fits with all the other pieces. I did a video on how to evaluate historical evidence. I'll be sure and put a link down below. That's a must-see if you haven't seen that yet. Aristotle said the mark of an intelligent mind is the ability to entertain a thought without accepting it. That's what we have to do. We have to look at the version we've been given and we think it's true, and we only have one version, and be intelligent about it. Consider another version. Now let's assume, after we looked at both sides completely, the other side, not piecemeal, but entirely, so we get a big picture. Now we got to assume both sides are true and both sides are false. So at first we only had one version. We assumed it was true. Never assumed it could be false, and there was another version. But now that we have two versions, let's turn them into four versions. Both are true, both are false. When you look at the version we've been given to see if it's false, and you understand how con artists work, when you understand how psychopaths work, you'll see it's riddled with deception. Riddled! There is no deception on the other side. And why is that important? Why did they do it to us? So that we would associate the man who understood the principle of autarky and made it famous and made it work, that we would associate him with mass murder. Never happened. And that upsets me. For anyone to be falsely accused of something. It upsets me to know that I was brought up in this country thinking Indians were savages. Based on the stupid TV programs I watched on TV. They were the savages. They scalped us. They came and attacked us. Turned out it was just the opposite. The white man that came to this country were the savages. We were the ones that put bounties on these people and started scalping them, and they merely scalped us in retaliation. I didn't find that out until I got into college. It broke my heart to think that I had spent that much time thinking those people were bad. And I feel the same way about other people who've been demonized. Because the powers that be don't want us to look at what they did. They did something they don't want us to understand. The number one threat to the powers that be last century is now the epitome of evil. For one reason. Hey guys!
Hey.
How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Another good day. I'm gonna take that one home.
Yeah, that's a real sweetheart.
Yeah, it looks so much like my dog.
Yeah.
And again, why do they do it? Why have they demonized this man? Because he did something the powers that be don't want us to look at. He followed the principles of autarky. He understands the importance of national and individual self-sufficiency. He understood that common interest should come before individual interest. He wanted to unite people behind a common goal. And we've been lied to about everything. So, open your mind. Do some research. And when you look at the other version, look at everything they say. Don't just look at one item and immediately cancel it out. Look at everything. And then look for deception on that side and come back and look at deception on the side you were given. There's no deception on the truth. And it fits with the big picture. And their deception fits with the big picture too. It's understandable what they're doing. So, what is it the average person to do? It's tough, folks. Our brains have been molded ever since we were young. I'm 64. My brain was molded to think on the left side of the spectrum so that I would be part of that momentum to get the cycle to recycle back over again. But I woke up to the reality that it's a false left-right paradigm. It's to give the illusion that we have a choice when neither one of these systems are the right system. Yes, there's a reason why this looks good, and there's a reason why this looks good. There's a reason why it appeals to both people. And there are reasons why both sides are bad. And it's hard for the average person to make any sense out of this. You know, I was really never interested in politics as a younger man. But when I found the most valuable knowledge in the world over 28 years ago, I started getting very philosophical, and that started my journey in learning a little bit more about politics. But it wasn't until maybe the last decade or so that I really have got a better grasp of it. And I can see how it plays a big role in our society. And now it's just a huge distraction. But it's something we have to think about. So whether you're on the far left or the far right or wherever you are in between, be open-minded. Realize that the other people on the other spectrum have a reason to believe the way they do, and yet they may not understand what you believe. And conversely, you may not understand what they believe, and they don't understand what you believe. Although I think everyone understands this concept that we should cooperate, which is why it's such an easy sell. Collectivism is an easy sell, especially when the powers that be keep the middle class low and have a large poor class who are the ones who are going to be the mob rule that votes a democracy right out of existence. That's where we are right now. Or at least that's where we were. Things are changing, actually. It looks like there's a tide that's coming that might surprise quite a few people. It's yet to be seen, but I've been hearing a lot of good things. And remember one thing always, folks. Virtually everyone in almost all of the patriot leaders out there are controlled opposition. Almost all patriot leaders are controlled opposition. And I'm speaking of Douglas Gabriel specifically, because he has Michael McKibben on his show all the time. And they're going over some good stuff, and it reminds me of Alex Jones and how Alex Jones had people on there telling good stuff. But Douglas Gabriel, is failing the Hitler test more and more and more and more every time I listen to him. He didn't fail it very much in the beginning, but every time he worked with Michael McKibben, the last video I saw of his the other day, 55-minute video or so, he didn't start screaming Nazi and fascism until the 40-minute mark. But boy, he laid it on heavy. When we talk about communism, socialism, collectivism, fascism doesn't belong in that same group, even though it is 100% government. But it's different. It's not the same as communism. And then socialism, as Kahlil Gibran once said, until we reduce the human language to 7 words, we'll never understand one another. So that's part of the problem when we talk about subjects like this, when you say the word socialism or fascism, we conjure up certain things. And the problem, of course, is going back to Satan's secret weapon. As soon as we hear the word Hitler, fascism, Nazis, we all automatically think these are evil people. They were killing all these people, and it's all a lie. It's all a lie. 6 million Jews supposedly were holocausted, gassed, and burned. In reality, there were somewhere between 262,000 and 272,000 total deaths in all those camps. Total. And now it's 6 million, just one group. It's a lie. It's a flat out lie so that you won't look into this in more detail. Why do you think it's illegal in 17 countries in Europe to even question this? Because the truth falls apart, or the lies fall apart when the truth is presented. The truth doesn't need any protection. The truth should not be suppressed. And I know that's hard to believe, isn't it? We've got so many references that make us think this happened. I can reflect back on all the movies I watched growing up. Sound and Music, The Great Escape, TV show after TV show. There's a movie after movie. There's a new movie coming out now. Something about the Nazi hunters, I think is what it's called. They're trying to get you to not look at what's behind fascism. 25 points of the NSDAP, where they demanded certain things for their country, for the betterment of their country. And it was set up to have limited duration. Think about that, folks. Limited duration. When have you ever seen any program out there saying we're of limited duration? I already explained the National Cancer Society is different. They weren't offering a solution. They said, once we find the solution. No, we found a solution. We know the biggest problem we face on this planet. It's the worst of us. And what most of us don't understand is that they're a reflection of all of us. And the only way to make the worst better is to make all of us better. It's all it takes, folks. It's a simple solution. And things could change very quickly. And there's a lot of brilliant minds out there. Once you can open up your mind and look at the other side, the other versions, I challenge you guys, do a Google search and look for these 25 points that Hitler and Drexler put out in 1920. I challenge you guys to look at any one of those and say, any one of them is bad. Not one of them was bad. Every one of them made their country stronger. They had a provision for religious freedom. They didn't say you had to be a Christian, although that was the fundamental basis behind it. But they understood the evil associated with people wanting to make money. So there are provisions to exclude that. So open up your mind, folks. Do a little research if you care to. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. There's only one lesson that needs to be taken from all of this. And that is that the powers that be don't want us to look at anybody who's broken away from the system and how they did it. So let's be open-minded. Let's take a look at what Gaddafi did. Do a Google search and look at what Gaddafi did for his country. Look how well the people were better off by doing it that way. Look what happened to Germany, where their economy was destroyed because of these people. You could have a barrel full of money, you couldn't even buy a loaf of bread. People were starving in that country. And they went from the poorest to the richest just by kicking out the international bankers that print our money, make us debt slaves. So, government, money, the media. These are subsequent needs, folks. Ultimate solution for all these needs that are being used to control us is for all of us to play our role. Get reconnected. Change our mentality individually so we can change it collectively, and then make sure our common interest, society's needs, come before our individual interests, our individual wants. The day we can finally do that, folks, and we wake up everybody, that's when everyone's in for a treat.